Good evening, everybody, and welcome to tonight's Committee of the Whole meeting for Monday, August 19th. I will now call this meeting to order. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Schultz,
Here.
Latta,
Here.
Cruz,
Here.
Hawbaker,
Here.
Ganfield,
Here.
Chrisman,
Here.
Dunn.
Here.
All members present.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. And to start things off, we've got a presentation from Public Transit from David Sturch. Thank you, David.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for this opportunity to discuss Met Transit today. I've been at Met Transit for just over 4 years, started in the spring of 2020, and came from Cedar Falls to go over to Met Transit. So again, thanks for the opportunity here. And what I want to talk to you tonight about is just kind of an overview of our operations and ridership reports and what we're doing with our route restructuring in Waterloo, along with a transit study we've got going for a while now, and then talk about other services and kind of some challenges we have here at Met. But just kind of starting out with our overview, we are the designated authority to provide public transit here in the Waterloo Cedar Falls urbanized area, the Waterloo Cedar Falls area. And through that we receive FTA funding, state funding, local funding from Cedar Falls, Waterloo, and Evansdale that provides, we provide paratransit service in Evansdale, along with other revenue sources from our ridership, fares, and other contracts that we have. We operate through a 28E agreement between Waterloo, Cedar Falls, and Met Transit, and within that agreement, it basically breaks down our hours of service we have in each city, and that's the request I present every winter to the council for budgeting requests and that kind of thing, and I certainly appreciate all that money that you provide to Met Transit. We offer two types of service. We have our fixed routes. Those are our big Gillig 30-foot buses that drive in circles all day. You know, we've got routes in Waterloo and Cedar Falls. And then we do offer the paratransit. That's the door-to-door service for elderly, disabled. That's offered again in Waterloo, Cedar Falls, and Evansdale. So those rides are again the door-to-door services for people that can't access fixed route. They might be too far away from that line. It is an application and process that we have to approve. Again, people go into dialysis. You know, we take them from door to door. They don't want to get back on a fixed route because after that process is, you know, they want to get back home. So that's a whole process with paratransit and that service too. Let's see, moving on. Again, we've got 7 routes in Waterloo, and of those 7, that Route 1, that one route, the Hawkeye route, is in Waterloo, and it also goes from Hawkeye to UNI twice in the morning and then twice in the afternoon, because we do have students that go to Hawkeye and vice versa. We got one route in Cedar Falls, which is Route 9, and then the 2 routes that share common borders there from Route 6 and Route 7. Route 7 leaves Central Transfer in downtown Waterloo and runs up Rainbow Drive to downtown Cedar Falls, UNI, and then back down University. Route 6 starts at quarter after the hour, runs University to UNI, downtown Cedar Falls, and then back to Waterloo on Rainbow. We have our service Monday through Friday, and then Saturday it's 2 hours less than the weekdays, so that's 5:45 a.m. to 6:15 p.m. on the weekdays. I just want to do some summaries on our fixed route ridership. You can kind of see in the table here, you know, starting in FY19, you know, we're over 300,000 rides, and then FY20, the last 3 or 4 months of the spring or the fiscal year, you know, we hit that thing called COVID, and at that time we were asking for essential trips only. We took a 14% dive on that, and then after that, July 1st of 21 or 20, you saw almost a half of our ridership was almost cut in half because of COVID. And since then, you know, in 22 and 23 and 24, you see a little climb back up to what we're at now, just over 190,000 rides for the fixed route side of it, and we just see that kind of going a little bit more and better every year, and eventually recovering from what we had prior to COVID. looking, and that's system-wide, so that's all the routes. So just looking at Cedar Falls, you can see on the map, the purple line is the Cedar Falls route. It starts at the transfer station at UNI on 23rd Street. It's got a northern loop that does a 30-minute loop up to Thunder Ridge and then downtown Cedar Falls and then back to the transfer station, and then it does the southern 30-minute loop down through Prairie Parkway, the Viking Road commercial area, Industrial Park, and then back up Hudson Road to the transfer station. And then the blue route is the Route 7 that connects with the transfer station and Route 9 on those quarter till, or it'd be quarter after the hour because they start in Waterloo at quarter till. And then vice versa, Route 6 comes in quarter till the hour to catch the other end of that loop. So those kind of that's basically how that system works here in Cedar Falls. Just to want to throw out some numbers, you can kind of see on the graph where it's at, but Route 9, before COVID, it was 13,000 rides, and this last year was just over 9,600 rides. So it's gone down, but then it's gone down from 20, but then it's starting to creep up a little bit. And granted, those rides are three to 5 rides an hour, as opposed to what it was before, 7 to 10 rides per hour. So that's low, but we're even looking at some adjustments to Route 9 that if you can see that gap along Hudson Road from Technology Parkway to the south up to University Avenue, we don't get a lot of people. Nobody picks up along Hudson Road, so we're looking at possibly going into the back end of the industrial park, so just basically follow Technology Parkway along the south side of the Target distribution up Production Drive and then back to Hudson Road on Viking Road. So we're looking at making some adjustments to that. Hopefully that might gather some more ridership down there, people going to work and that. It doesn't really affect the timing because we can still maintain a 30-minute south loop doing that. Another thing on Route 9 that we possibly can look at is as the high school is coming up online here this fall, it's easy to take the Green Hill Road extension and loop it back over by Hillcrest Apartments and then up to 27th Street and possibly catch some kids going to the high school too. And then we can just get it back on 27th back to Hudson Road and then around the university. So that's something we can go out and do some timing on that to see if that can run well as the school starts here pretty soon. So those are the fixed route stats there in the Cedar Falls portion. Going to paratransit services, we average about 10 to 14 routes per week, and that kind of equates to about 175 to 220 rides per day. Saturday routes, we're just taking people to shopping. They don't go to doctor's appointments on Saturdays. So that's a little bit less, 3 to 4 routes per Saturday, every Saturday, which is about 65 to 75 rides for that weekend. And then just kind of going through the numbers on paratransit. And like I said, you can see FY19 was pretty good. Then COVID hit, and it dropped down from 53,000 to 36,000, in those 14 months during COVID. But we're starting to recover since then and show some improvement in those rides on the paratransit side. Moving to route restructuring initiative. We've been kind of looking at this for the last few years. We've started, we've been working with a software called Remix, and they basically build our routes through socioeconomic data and speed of the bus. I mean, it's a pretty powerful tool that we can make some adjustments and check the timing and the time points. So we're ready to go here next month on the new routes in Waterloo. And basically, our current routes are circular, 1-hour circular routes. So they start at Central Transfer in Waterloo, and they do their big circle and come back at Central Transfer. So our new routes are going to be more of an out and back kind of concept. So just kind of picture the clock on the wall. You take your minute hand, you start at 3 o'clock, and you get off at 6 o'clock. So that's a 15-minute ride. from point A to point B, but when on the return trip, you got to go from 6 o'clock all the way around the clock to 3 o'clock, which is 45 minutes on the bus. The whole idea for the changes, it's 15 minutes out and 15 minutes back. So that's the whole idea for the new route restructuring program. So the whole idea is get rid of the circular routes. You want to have shorter travel times, develop more in the field, quote, transfer points, instead of you're going to transfer at downtown Waterloo or UNI or Hy-Vees on both ends of the town. We can have some within in the field, so to speak. Again, more transfer options, and hopefully this will lead to more ridership on our routes. And then still operate the same service hours. We're setting up those times now. Some routes will start at quarter till, some will start at on the hour, and some will start at quarter after the hour. We've been, as mentioned before, we've been working on a transit study. And again, part of that was we had our consultant take a look at our routes and again, look at those socioeconomic indicators and making sure we're not taking away service in those areas of Waterloo, and everything, all the routes checked out had positive impact on those routes. So that's part of their route evaluation. Fares, we looked at a possible zero fare system. The problem, I mean, it's nice, but there's costs associated with that. So our fixed route system, it's $1.50 to ride. Our paratransit can't be more than twice that, or $3. So if it's zero fixed route, you got to have zero paratransit. And the cost for operating both, the true cost, the direct cost is fixed route is $120 an hour. Paratransit could be $140 an hour, again, because it's that door-to-door service. Another part of that, the consultant just kind of wrapped up a preliminary fleet transition plan with looking at zero-emission vehicles and what we need to do at our facilities down on Blackhawk Street to accommodate that type of growth and change. You know, they looked at compressed natural gas, electric, both full electric or hybrid, and then the hydrogen fuel cells. So we want to evaluate that and take a look at what our options are on that. Any option would involve more space to store our buses and to repair our buses, because a lot of these vehicles are taller. You need higher ceilings. We don't have that yet. So, you know, just preliminary indication that we're looking at probably better shop space for repairs and all that. It's kind of the first step to get a concept plan and then move into a full facilities analysis that could lead into seeking or looking for federal funds for those maintenance and facility upgrades. And then over time, you do a transition from what type of bus. You buy two or three electric buses, and then you drop off some diesel buses. So it takes a few years to make a full transition into those type of vehicles. So that's another part of the study. And another thing, when you're just looking at bus stop amenities, what we can put in bus stops, whether it be just a simple concrete pad with a bench, or if there's area for shelters and all that. So those are just a few things that the transit study is working on, the consultant, and that'll be wrapping up here in the next few months. Just some other things we haven't met. We use an Echolane web-based software scheduling system for our paratransit rides, and everybody calls up the day before to schedule their ride tomorrow. So that basically builds those rides in every route for each driver for the next day, and then it's inserted in their tablet. Every bus has a tablet, and you just hit start, and where's my first passenger? If any special instructions, and then you can toggle back and forth between that and like a GPS map. So that'll direct that driver to that pickup and drop off, and it tracks any delays, any on-time performance standards, anything like that. So that's what that Echolane does. Some of you may know we have a software app that you can download on your phone. It's a Unite GPS real-time app that you can select the route, and it shows you where the bus is at on that route and the time points when that bus will get there. Again, I mentioned Remix transit planning software that we're working on with our routes and changes on that. And as always, you know, it's always nice to work with the cities when they design new roadway projects, you know, to include Met Transit for some of those amenities, like we've done with University Avenue and Main Street. And we're kind of working with Waterloo now on LaPorte Road. So kind of establishes where those bus stops are at, and if we need a pad or something, some area just to let a ramp out, because sometimes we just let a ramp out in the grass, you know, and those mobility aids have to get through that. So, you know, it's just the planning efforts that working with the city is greatly appreciated. Additional services, just kind of listed a few. Microtransit is kind of more of a demand response, kind of like paratransit, but it's for those people that are removed from the fixed route that we'd have some sort of a scheduling process that you can go out and go pick that up. It could be a couple vans just driving around. It's not really a bus driving around town waiting for a ride, you know. It can be set up that, or it just all depends how popular it is and what type of vehicle you have. So those are some options on microtransit. Ride share and carpooling, another example. The deviated fixed route is kind of a hybrid of the fixed route system now. It's, again, you call up for a ride, and that bus will deviate off that route to go pick up a passenger. The only hitch on that is you want to maintain the time points and schedules for that route too. So that's kind of the challenge on that end. Then we got Uber, Lyft, and taxi. Des Moines is running a pilot program that utilizes Uber. They have an Uber zone that is within this one route. So there's an app that you can contact Uber, and you can schedule a pickup, and that will take you to one of the bus stops along that route. So that, again, that is kind of a pilot program. I believe you pay the drive, you take the Uber, and then you pay for the ride on the bus, and then Uber basically bills DART back for that little small ride that they use down there. I try to look up how many. I don't know if there's a way to look up how many Uber drivers there are in town, but that was kind of hard. I imagine there's probably more in Des Moines or, you know, Minneapolis than there are in Waterloo and Cedar Falls, but that system is in the pilot stage, or just kind of running a temporary service to see how that works out. School rides, again, we have UNI and Hawkeye rides, and then school district, we're working with the City of Waterloo Community School District for our summer rides. Students, kids 18 and under, college kids, if they have an active student ID, they can ride for 75 cents. And in the summer times, it's a quarter from June, July, and August for those summer rides. And the Waterloo Community School District said, if we show the bus driver a school pass, let them ride for free. And so what we're doing is we're tracking that through our fare box, and then we're just basically giving them a printout how many people ride every month, and then just billing the school district back for 25 cents for a ride. In June, we had 107 students ride in June out of 155 kids. They must have had a school pass, so they got to ride for free, and we basically billed them that 25 cents, which is $30 to the school district, something like that, you know. So don't have the July numbers out yet, but we run that through August, the end of this month. Hopefully they'll extend that through the school year and see how that works out for them. Moving on to some challenges. Again, I've just kind of listed a few. So the increased cost for bus replacement. Every time we have a list of buses, and basically we evaluate them based on their useful life, years of service and how many miles. And then they gather points through the DOT for replacement. So when I first started at Met in spring of 2020, we bought a fixed route bus, a 30-foot Gillig, for $475,000. Now they're $675,000 after 4 years. The DOT and the FTA is working real hard to find the funding for those shortfalls, and we're still kind of waiting for our FY22 bus replacement funds to come in. So that's a challenge for us. Same with the light duties. You know, they were 90,000 when I started. They're 160,000 now for those smaller paratransit buses. So, like I said, they're doing hard work just to get those dollars from DC to our Region 7 office, the DOT, and getting us in there. It takes 14 months to build a bus. Well, actually, we order a bus, and then 14 months later, we get it. It actually takes 2 weeks to build the bus. That's how long the queue line is. It's kind of funny. Charter regulations, well, fixed route service requests. Everybody asks for, hey, why don't we run on Sundays? Why don't we run at 9 o'clock at night, you know? And I mean, that's kind of a decision up to the councils if they want to run that. You know, the only hitch there is we're kind of in a driver shortage right now. Really tough to find drivers. I mean, our drivers now are working overtime, and the good side of it is we've got a new driver. We're training 4 new drivers, and then we got some more applications out there for interviews. So that's always a positive. So we can fill those roster spots we have on fixed route and paratransit. And then the charter regulations. That's something like if someone called me and say, "Hey, can I rent one of your buses?" Well, we can't provide that. It's got to go to the private sector. So that's the charter side of it. I can't take a group of wedding people out to go bar hopping and go from the reception to the church or other way around. That has to go through the private side of it. But we do offer, I'm not going to call them charters, but we do offer a bus to the mayor and council, you know, for trips, you know, and go and see projects. And I think we might have one set up next month, I believe. So you get to ride in a Gillig bus. Hooray. But I believe that might be the end of my presentation. So if you have any questions or comments, I see the Murphys here. They're frequent passengers.
Okay, we'll open up the council discussion questions.
Mr. Church?
Yes.
The funding, is that based on our population of the area, average income, some metrics of some sort?
It is. The funding comes from the hours of service for that particular route. Okay. So it costs us $120 per hour to run a route. Well, we get federal, state, and local monies, so we basically take 50% of that, and that's how we apply the fee or the cost to the cities. So $60, $65 per hour service based on the hours. So that comes out for like Route 9 that runs 307 days a year, which is 3,700 hours. That's 12 hours a day for 307 days. It's roughly $220,000 to run that route.
The federal funding would be?
That covers the rest of it. So again, that $120 is subsidized from the federal side of it and state and, like I say, all other revenues. So federal dollars come in at the end of the year and at the end of the fiscal year. So it's more of a reimbursable side of it. So we're spending the money from last year and then we apply for this year's money in June. So it's $2.27 million. We have to, that's a 50-50 match, so we have to match that 2.2 with 2.2.
Thank you.
First off, it's nice to see you. I remember back when I would deal with you with some city some projects, and I tell you more than once, you just stood up and walked out with me, and we went and looked at something. Yeah. So I really appreciated that commitment you had back then. I'm also interested in your thoughts on cul-de-sacs. Should we build more of those or leave those?
We just try to avoid.
No.
You can't turn a 30-foot around in cul-de-sacs.
No, I've got actually a number of questions for you. First off, are we married to the big 35-footer bus? Or as you look at your fleet changes and the fuel cells of what they'll have, is there something else out there that would serve us better?
I was in Ames for a state convention here a couple months ago, and I saw a low-floor, light-duty vehicle, which has got a leveler so it kneels, and that was about the size of a paratransit bus. But we have two 35-footers, and then the rest are 30-footers for the big buses. The low to no emission vehicles are 35-footers because they have to build it for the weight of what's on the bus. So that's again, maybe it's going to change in 5 to 8 years that they can build better batteries, smaller battery packs to give you more miles on that, to cut down that. There are light duty, smaller, I guess, battery vehicles that are just coming out that, you know, we run about 170 to 200 miles a day, and some of those buses can go 150. It doesn't quite get to the end of our day, so we'd have to do some charging, you know, midterm charging, that kind of thing. So that's what I see out there is what's there. But again, Route 9, we run a light duty bus a lot on Route 9.
Could you remind me of the requirements for the paratransport? I know I had a sister that was diabetic on dialysis, and I tell you, that was a lifesaver for her to have that. Is it something along that, or is it someone that just needs a ride?
Well, it's an application that you submit. We take a look at that distance from the fixed route. Do you have sidewalks in the area? An automatic is if you're going to dialysis, you know, we're gonna get that. You know, all the nursing homes usually get that service, but like I said, it's 3/4 of a mile from the fixed route is the general rule. But again, we look at other factors that may prohibit that person from getting to that from their home to the fixed route. If they're in a wheelchair, again, no sidewalks or other factors that prevent that. They would qualify for that paratransit.
For example, residents in North Cedar that aren't on a route, would they qualify, being that they're not on a route, yet they're no other reason than?
Well,
they live in this?
if there's a disabled or
Yeah,
an
that's
elderly
what
side
my-
of it,
yeah, okay.
yeah. But that could be a microtransit component for that. You know, go up there and pick up rides, go clear out to Thunder Ridge or Pheasant Ridge Golf Course over there in the western part of town. You know, they're off the fixed route.
Right.
You know, bringing people from there in closer to the route area.
And that's something you're proposing?
Well, I mean, that's something we can look into, you know, looking at a potential microtransit. Now, it's kind of hard to cost that because you don't know. It's based on rides. Like I said before, we're not going to get a couple of cars and just drive around town waiting for rides. It's based on the scheduled side of it, and there's other factors with that too. So, I mean, scheduling software, vehicles, and people to drive.
I know from
the factors
conversations,
that-
I think if we did something like that, I'd be looking at a pilot program or something to take that route. Move it over to,
Thanks, David.
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor.
1 second, let's bring it back over here.
Thank you for your presentation.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Lots of good information. I think, yeah, we would definitely, at least I would be interested in learning more about the microtransit. I think that would be good. Curious if there is any initiative to kind of attract more folks to riding the bus. I know that we have a lot of college students who are international students who don't have cars, or just generally kids that, you know, don't come to school with a vehicle, and so they, you know, just want to go as far as from the university out to Walmart and don't necessarily know how to do that. So just curious, like, what the initiatives are to reach a new audience.
Yeah, as part of our route restructuring, we want to get, you know, it's a marketing thing, it's a get the word out type of thing, and learn how to ride the bus and get flyers out to those people, and, you know, spread those around town. We're working with On Media. We're going to set up some 15-second spots on your streaming channels. I mean, come ride with me, you know, when you're watching Hulu, you know, the fun commercials you can't fast forward out of. we're going to get one of those in there for driving Met and hiring. So we had 2 different spots on that. So there's a couple ways to, get that out there.
Cool.
Yep.
Thank
We do radio spots with Mix 96, the Koloff radio families. Those are all ongoing too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Curious, I know there's a lot of third-party payers that'll pay as a insurance benefit, TMS, for example, for transport to and from medical appointments. Is that something that your service would a patient be able to potentially qualify for that with a paratransit transport?
Yeah,
or is there...
we transport a lot of Medicare insurance passengers through their brokers and into our system.
So at that point, there's no fee for transaction for the rider necessarily?
Yeah,
gonna
it's
go back
all
to-
covered through insurance, yeah.
Okay. And then, so looking at your numbers, you're up 9% in ridership year over year. Still substantially lower than pre-COVID numbers,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Where do you see your numbers going this year?
It's always, it's hard to gauge, but as these new routes come out, hopefully that creates more rides and all that. So we're always looking at 3-4% increase every year as budgeting comes around, and we kind of see that, we keep an eye on that throughout the year, and what's it up from last month, previous month, and we factor in how many weekdays are run service. If there's fewer weekdays than the month before, it tends to be a little lighter, because we're getting more passengers on the weekdays as opposed to weekends. So it's just something we keep an eye out.
Maybe I missed it. What's your total number for your fleet?
We have 18 fixed route buses and 20 paratransit buses. So of those 10 routes, we have 18 larger buses, but then we cycle those buses in and out, for servicing and other things that come up.
And then
Those are spares, so to speak.
Yeah, and then your average years of service for your vehicle?
We've got some workhorses that were 2001s. I mean, they're 20 years old.
Right.
And they're going pretty good. But then we've got some 20s that need help.
That have to replace at $675,000 a piece?
Yeah, but those buses have over 600,000 miles on them.
Right.
And they keep going, so.
I'll go back to the question on the pilot program then. I mean, it just feels to me like you could probably buy some smaller vehicles at a substantially less price. You're still, it's not going to address your driver problem, right? But
Yeah, you start out like minivans or something like that.
One thing too, just kind of discussing that pilot for the drivers. I think for all the buses currently, do they have to be CDL
Yes.
qualified drivers?
Yeah,
But if
but-
it was like microtransit, it would not be
It'd just be a
requiring CDL.
chauffeur's
Chauffeur's
license.
license.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's based on weight of the vehicle. And I mentioned those new Dodge low-floor ones, those are under the threshold, so you don't need a CDL to drive those.
Mr. Mayor?
Yep, go ahead.
So the microtransit or when we talk about these pilot programs, are we thinking that those would be Met Transit employees providing that service, or would that be something that's kind of contracted out to, or maybe we just don't know?
You don't know, but
Okay.
probably be Met Transit employees.
Okay,
Yeah.
because I think there sometimes is a change in quality.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking from like the nursing side of it, watching folks navigate around on Met Transit, and I think Met Transit provides a better quality experience sometimes.
That's good to hear.
So, yes, thank you. So I just want to make sure I understand correctly. So did you say Route 9 has on average 3 to 5 riders per hour?
Per hour.
Okay. But it costs $120 per hour to run it. And then, so that the entities here locally are feeding or contributing to the budget, but anything beyond that is federally?
Yes, so basically we're charging 50% of that rate. So to come up with that dollar amount, it's $62 an hour.
Yeah.
For X amount of hours per year.
So if something changed, and it costs somehow less, then does the federal funding automatically drop down?
Well, the federal funding is based on, yeah, your service hours and how many passengers. It's convoluted formula.
So you're kind of,
So, yeah, so it goes up every year, just that percentage is,
what I guess I'm
based
getting
on
is
those.
if we were more efficient, would the federal funding then, would we lose federal funding, or would they like
I don't think
keep up
so.
with
If you're
it?
more
Oh, okay.
efficient, giving more passengers, that's a good thing.
Right, okay. And maybe like, say if we had a smaller vehicle, like tinier, more efficient vehicles, would that?
Well,
would
that'd add to the route, that'd add to the passengers.
Sure,
Yeah.
okay. And then last thing, and maybe this is, how is it determined where a shelter on the route go? Like say, for instance, Prairie Parkway, that's a fairly new road in town, and there's a good amount of medical facilities out there. How, and forgive me if I haven't noticed it lately, but like, how do we determine if there's a, like one of the shelters, you know, where, is that the city that does that, or is it Met Transit, or we do that together? How do we do that?
Well, it's together. The shelters are owned by the city.
Okay.
But that cooperation of figuring out, okay, yeah, we have a bus route here. The drivers tell me a lot of people get in and off. I mean, there's this patch of grass they stay in here. Well, let's just put a piece of concrete there, or maybe a bench or something like that. And right away, you know, constraints if we want to build a shelter or anything like that. But again, it's kind of working with the cities on those big road projects like University Avenue and Main Street, because we do have routes going up and down both streets, and thinking, okay, our drivers tell us this is a high passenger loading and unloading area. Let's maybe put a shelter here or a bench or something like that. And these other locations, I mean, the bus could stop at any intersection. We don't have bus stops.
Right.
So before intersections, you know, we always try to look at a location for a service walk from the curb to the sidewalks. Not necessarily the crossing. You want to stop before the crossing. So sometimes buses stop in driveways, you know, at the approach.
Yeah.
In locations. So I mean, that's just the communication between the cities on where those could be at and what's there.
Since we're all here, can I just say that unless there's been one added out at the Prairie Parkway vicinity of the Unity Point Clinic, I don't know that there's a shelter there. We're a few years in, so that'd be a good place to think about. Then last, I feel like this is something that's changed, and at least I've been told it changed. Did something happen where maybe back in the day, the bus was able to drop people off, maybe like say if they went grocery shopping or they went to a doctor's appointment and they were more like dropped off at the door, but maybe something changed, maybe it was a liability thing or something?
Well, that's paratransit. We do take grocery rides.
Sure.
But the fixed route does pull in front of Walmart.
Okay.
And trying to think of other College Square area, and they kind of run up through there, and same with Fleming Drive and down there, and so that's kind of a front door service. It's a little dicey at sometimes, you know, with people coming in and out. So it's just they have to have their head on a swivel, so to speak, you know, not dodging, but letting those customers, you know, get to their car too. So
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much.
Any other council questions, discussion? Quick, I know one I had was, do you know, just because I know a lot of towns, especially our size, are looking at those microtransit models and pilot programs and all of that, but do you know at what point our per hour ridership gets to be a point where it would be worth looking at? Is microtransit a better option than fixed route based on overall cost, but also just quality of service of,
something I can look into and see what that threshold is.
yeah. So I just didn't know,
Point.
if there was a best practice point
Yeah.
where people start to look at as the numbers make more sense.
Yeah,
for
I mean,
microtransit.
it could be 10 per hour. I mean, that's kind of what we were before. You know, Route 7 was running 17 to 25 per hour. Route 9 was running 9 to 10, 11 per hour. And then we have to do a reset, you know,
Yeah.
after
Mr. Mayor,
2020.
can I piggyback off that?
Yeah, go ahead.
Because maybe in that same evaluation, because sometimes I wonder if we spent a little more. I think it really is about quality, and I do love the out and back. I think that's the concern I hear from a lot of folks, is it just the time it takes with the circular route. So the out and back seems like genius. But like, as far as, the pilot program or, the micro stuff, or just smaller, more, I guess, a smaller vehicle that can go more places. I guess what I'm wondering is there some way we can figure out, like, oh, hey, if we just got a little more money for a way better product, I mean, that'd be something I'm interested in, especially for communities our size. I don't think we're unique. I think we need Met Transit, but I don't think that we're unique in the situation that we're in. But I wonder sometimes if we spent a little more, and obviously that's a council's and everyone's discussion, but if we spent a little more and got a heck of a lot better product, then we'd be serving everyone. And maybe even, like, when you talk about attracting new folks, that would be, a way to get people on when it was just more efficient.
And just to add to that, that's something we can look at our existing Route 9. Do you tweak that a little bit for more streamlined approach on that? And that's something we can, when we were first starting to talk about route restructuring, I was sitting over here in the audience working for the city, and as a Met rep talking to the previous general manager, and we're like, yeah, it's a good idea. Let's see what happens in Waterloo, and then we'll come and take a look at it, after it's up and running. So I would say that let's see how that functions in Waterloo with the routes, and revisit Route 9. If we'd split it in half and do a northern loop out and back somewhere, and a southern, add another bus, that type of thing. Those are still options we can look at.
Okay. Any other questions, comments from council? All right, seeing none, then we will adjourn the committee of the whole meeting, and we will be back here in 10 minutes at 7 o'clock for the normal city council meeting. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, David.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.